Dear Inner Sloth, hi, it's me, Austin. I spent months and months trying to figure out a topic for a video on Among Us to no avail. Turns out major writer's block is a symptom of depression. Well, guess who's got 2 thumbs and is on a higher dose of Zoloft now? This guy. You're in deep trouble now, son. Austin's back, baby! Yeah! Phew, wow, I am already tired just from that. Anyway, we have a fun one today. We're looking at the biology of the Among Us crew members because these guys are weird. They're supposedly 3.5 feet tall and they have this weird ham bone spine. There's just so much stuff going on here. So many questions and so few answers. Are they human? Are they something else? The answer may surprise you or may not surprise you. Honestly, it's not wait, I should definitely build up like the mystery here instead of just being lazy. Okay, cue the lights! In a world filled with weird 1 meter tall blobby ham people with no arms and floating hands being chased by weird imposters who exist for some reason, there is one man, a man with an avatar of similar body shape and a giant head, which is, fun fact, an actual picture of him as a toddler with his adult face over it, and that is snow, by the way. It is not dandruff. I see your comments every time. Here's the original photo. It is snow! Anyway, never mind. Are these weird things human? Are they not? There's only one man who can find out. It's me! I'm the man! I'm gonna do it! Okay, so let's go over the basics so we understand what we're talking about. I think all of you know what Among Us is about by now, and if you don't, I don't know, Google's right there. There's a few really weird things going on with the crewmates in Among Us, which I have now almost said multiple times as The Last of Us, which, oh my god, Zoloft brain, could you please not? Anyway, the scanner in the med bay of Among Us places the crewmates at about 1 meter tall, but doesn't go into much more detail, but 3.5 feet, one weird single bone in the middle of them like a Christmas ham. I mean, boom, not human, right? Well, it's not that simple. For one thing, yes, we know that they're pretty tiny little jelly people, but we also know the following. They breathe. They require oxygen to breathe. They eat human food, or at least drink it. Do all of these things mean that they're human? Absolutely not. My dog will do literally all of those things. Are you human? Bailey, are you human? Are you? Are you? You so good boy. Are you a human? No, I didn't think so. But it is a clue that they are not aliens, which, well, I mean, I guess from someone's perspective, they are aliens, but you know what I mean. They're Earthlings. They come from Earth. Let's go over all the reasons, starting with, actually, I have no idea which of these 3 is most and least interesting, so let's just go down the list in order. Breathing. Now, breathing is something we don't think about a whole lot, but it's pretty much the only way we're able to do anything. Respiration is like the cellular version of breathing, and I think all life respirates. Respiration is the exchange of gas on a cellular level, taking in some gas, taking something from it, and shooting it out in a new form. The only form of sort of life that doesn't respirate at all are viruses, because they essentially make other cells do that for them. It is one of the many reasons viruses defy our definitions of what an organism is, and I am not getting on that tangent. All life respirates, but not all life breathes. Breathing is an active activity that basically pulls in a ton of those gases at a rate that would otherwise be impossible. Trees respirate, but animals breathe. Why? Because of all that moving we do, all the thinking. Your brain will completely cease to function within seconds without a steady supply of oxygen, but you can go days without water or hydration if all you drink is Mountain Dew Code Red, and weeks without food before you really start to get into trouble. Breathing is just another form of getting energy. Now, breathing or respiring alone don't mean our little dudes, dudettes, and dude-thems are from Earth. It's very likely breathing is pretty much a requirement for any complex multicellular life, but breathing oxygen? That is a whole nother bag of bananas. Oxygen is the gas we breathe with, kind kinda by mistake. A bazillion years ago, the atmosphere of Earth was completely different from the way it is now. Organisms respired largely using carbon dioxide, and oxygen was a waste product. Oxygen would then immediately react with anything nearby, forming bonds. It wasn't until roughly 2 billion years ago that the oxygen production went out of control and the stuff started to build up everywhere, creating the Great Oxidation Event, which killed like loads of stuff. Because it turns out when you're accustomed to living in a world without a ton of oxygen, it becomes a poison. And I mean, oxygen is kind of dangerous stuff. It's super reactive, which is what makes it kind of risky to breathe with, but whatever. That said, oxygen isn't the only gas that can be respirated, although almost all life on Earth does use it now, and again, kind of by mistake, but there's lots of other candidates like ammonia, carbon, nitrates, sulfates. A bunch of things can be used to breathe. But we use oxygen because of something that happened 2 billion years ago. We breathe the garbage of other organisms, and the fact that the Among Us crewmates not only breathe, but breathe oxygen, that means they were very likely to have come from Earth. But who knows? Maybe oxygen breathing and respiration is like just a thing that is really common in the evolution of complex organisms, which brings us to the last key of the puzzle, and probably the thing I should have led with: the food. There's Earth food, coffee, juice, milk. It's all Earth food, stuff that comes from Earth. Earth people farmed that stuff. Checkmate! Okay, so we did all that. What's the point then? We proved they're from Earth. Good job. Phew, we did it. Is that it? No way! I am just getting started! I'm not even close to done yet because we have to talk about, which one first? You see, this is why I hate doing biology episodes. When it's a mathy episode, I just go, here's one premise you gotta know, here's another one, and then this one, and then I can go from left to right across the formula, measure some stuff, and bada bing, bada boom, you got an episode. But no, biology is not linear. It's messy, gross, complicated. But we're doing this, so let's get to it. Definitely some Earthlings here, but humans? I don't know about that. The crewmates are definitely as smart as humans, but they're dramatically physiologically different from us, which pretty much rules out being human, right? Well, maybe, but let's go over the effects of space travel on humans for a bit. Well, most mammals, but definitely primates. Microgravity, something that humans who are spacefaring would be experiencing in abundance, even with artificial gravity, just because, you know, that's how things work in space. Microgravity has a ton of impact on how our bodies function, because we actually rely on gravity quite a bit here on Earth, having evolved here. The first immediate thing that becomes noticeable is the impact on our cardiovascular system. Our heart is constantly moving blood around our bodies, and other lymphs and stuff move other fluids as well. And these organs adapted over bazillions, gajillions of years to be really good at pushing fluids against gravity when they need to go up, and using gravity to make them go down more easily. Without gravity, however, this means that there's too much pressure pushing fluids of all types up and not enough pulling them down. This leads to increased pressure on your upper organs and decreased pressure on the lower ones, causing puffiness in the face. This actually can go away in a few days as your body adapts to being in microgravity, but it adapts to this by literally making less blood, which can cause some problems if you return to normal gravitational conditions. But it gets worse, way worse, because that can be countered like what, if you really need to, with a blood transfusion. But here's the really bad news. When in microgravity, less strain is put on your bones. That's good, right? No, it's terrible. Sure, it might alleviate some of that back pain, which is great, but at a great cost. Our bones actually rely on the pressures caused by gravity to keep them strong, to keep them dense. It's almost like gravity is pulling the bone cells closer together, and this loss of density can happen incredibly quickly. Spacefaring humans lose 1 to 2% of their bone density per month of being in microgravity. This is what's known as spaceflight osteopenia, and it's fast and dangerous. To put it into some context for you, people in space lose the same amount of bone density that an elderly person does in a single year per month in space, meaning 1 year in space is like suffering with osteoporosis for 12 years. This makes you at high risk for fractures upon return returning to gravity. This is not to mention muscle atrophying, etc., etc., etc. But what does all of this have to do with our little Among Us bean people? Everything! The Among Us crew members are perfectly adapted to being a spacefaring species. They are short and squat, making pressure gradients from fluids less intense, making the transitions from high gravity to low gravity and back again less jarring, something that's likely to happen quite frequently when you're moving from planet to planet. But what about that weird little ham bone? Well, having a big central column as a support structure is going to be really good when you're regularly experiencing bone density loss. I mean, no joke, my spouse right now, literally a couple weeks ago, fractured a vertebrae by doing, I have no idea, lifting a bucket, and we live on Earth 24/7. And you know what's way less likely to fracture than a single vertebrae? A giant, big old bone right there. You'll still lose bone density at the same rate, but it'll overall be a stronger support structure. With a shorter frame, there'd be less need for minute articulation. And the cool thing is that many of these things, at least, are things that scientists believe humans may evolve with if we become a spacefaring species. I say may because humans are incredibly difficult to predict, especially when it comes to breeding behavior, because we have these big freaking complex brains up top, which is the real and final clue as to the identity of these little people, the brains. You see, as outlandish as it may seem for humans to evolve so dramatically while in outer space, it'd be even weirder for another species entirely to evolve more complicated brains. Basic physiological changes can happen in a few hundred years. But brains? Brains take a ton of energy, and another species evolving to become smarter can take hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Which brings us back to the question, are these things human? And I can't answer that. I'm 100% convinced that they evolved from humans, but are they human? I don't know. Well, the study of speciation, the term for when enough evolution has happened that something becomes another species, is incredibly divided on when this will happen to humans, or if it ever will. There's no clear-cut answer, and honestly, the idea of speciation in humans has some problematic ideas that have seeped into it, especially from the early 20th century. What I am convinced of, though, is that this new human type is not Homo sapiens sapiens, the exact species that we are. They may be an entirely new type of human being, like Homo sapiens galaxia. And not only that, but as silly and goofy as they look, they're perfectly evolved to handle the perils of spaceflight. So I guess that's what we can look forward to after Elon Musk finally gets a bunch of chumps to Mars. Sincerely, Austin. Want to give a special shout out to my top tier patrons: Is B, Mads Jurgensen, Ronald Coleman, Jared Beecher, Alan Hagers, Adadam TP, Nicholas Spillinger, Marissa Resnick, and Mazurf. And honestly, also a big thanks to Matt, Steph, Yossi, Jason, Amy, and everyone at Team Theorists who've been super patient with me during all the chaos I've experienced while moving across the country and the 2 years of my spouse going to grad school. It has been like years of chaos on my end that has been an utter handful to juggle, and they have just been awesome. All of you are awesome. All of you who watch the videos are awesome. I love you guys so much. Subscribe to the channel.